Let me call to order this Bristol, Tennessee City Council meeting for February 7th, 2017. Tara, would you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Young.
Here.
Councilwoman Rennie.
Here.
Councilwoman Firerotter.
Here.
Mayor King.
Here.
Councilwoman Fowler.
Yes, here. Thank you.
I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. Your interest in city government is much appreciated. There are a number of opportunities to speak on matters of city business this evening. A sheet explaining those opportunities has been made available upon entering into the meeting room. As we go forward with tonight's agenda, I would like to note that each time when public comment is welcome. In addition, a sign-up sheet, again, was at the front to sign up if you wanted to say anything, and we'll allow that to anybody else who didn't make the sign-up paper to address council. Those things that are not on the printed agenda, we will give a special time for that. I'd like to ask tonight Jack Young to lead us in our invocation and pledge.
You'll stand with me. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity you give us in this great free country to come out and be a part of the community process, whether it's as someone who's joined us tonight or as someone who is watching, or the honor that you've given to each of us to be able to serve as well. I pray, Lord, that you would help us to be honoring to you. Pray you would help us to work through the differences that we all represent and come together to be able to make what's the best decision for our community. We pray these things now in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Sorrell, do we have any items to be added to the agenda?
No, Mayor, the agenda is complete.
We do have one proclamation this evening. The proclamation is designating the week of February 7th through 14th of 2017 as Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week. I'd like to ask Councilwoman Michelle Rennie to read the proclamation.
Whereas the health and well-being of all children throughout the city of Bristol is of paramount importance to Tennessee family and communities, and whereas thousands of children are born with birth defects every year, including approximately 40,000 children in the United States who begin life with one or more than 35 identified forms of congenital heart defects. And whereas the origins and symptoms of congenital heart defects are becoming more readily identifiable, and the range of surgical options are expanding continuously thanks to doctors and scientists' diligent research efforts and field experiences that extend our body of knowledge every day. And whereas there is much to learn about the causes and the effective treatment of congenital heart defects, and it is important for parents, pediatricians, and nurses to recognize the warning signs associated with congenital heart defects among newborns so they may provide proper treatment as early as possible. And whereas many Tennessee families and communities are directly or indirectly affected by infant illness and death caused by congenital heart defects, and we applaud the efforts of doctors and scientists everywhere who work diligently to solve life's medical mysteries and to improve the quality of life for us all. Therefore, Chad Keene, Mayor of the City of Bristol, Tennessee, does hereby recognize February 7 through 14, 2017, as Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week in Bristol, Tennessee, and calls this observance to the attention of all of our citizens. Does this the 7th day of February 2017.
An undue illness, I believe, came upon someone who is going to receive that tonight, so we wish them the best. Next on our agenda, we will have a presentation of the city's comprehensive annual financial report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016. Mr. Matt Hill with Malden and Jenkins Certified Public Accountants was scheduled to deliver the presentation, but is unable to be with us due to an illness. Ms. Tara Music will provide a brief overview for the council this evening, and Mr. Hill's presentation will be rescheduled for the meeting of March the 7th. Tara.
I'll just note, I just heard on the radio that Tennessee is one of the worst hit with the flu out of the nation, so aren't we lucky?
Well, the good news is FY16 was a very good year for the city's finances. All of the funds ended in good financial position, good financial standing. There are no funds that concern me at this point in time, or there's nothing that should make anybody nervous. Everything's in great shape. One thing I did want to do is just point out some of the highlights of the report. Part of the auditor's job is to issue 3 different opinions. One opinion on the overall CAFR as a whole is the main audit opinion. And the city did receive an unmodified opinion, which in the auditor language basically means it's a clean opinion. There was nothing wrong. The financial statements were fairly stated, and the report as it was issued is accurate. The second report they issue is one on internal controls over financial reporting. It's basically saying whether or not city staff is following governmental auditing standards. And on that one they check, we had no material weaknesses were identified, no significant deficiencies were identified in internal control, and we had no findings of noncompliance that were material to the financial statements. So as far as internal controls go, everything was also clean, and there was nothing that we needed to improve on in that area that they noted. The third report that they do is they issue a report on federal awards over major programs and whether or not internal controls are complied with. It's very similar to the one on internal controls with government standards. And on that report, we also had no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and they issued an unmodified opinion. So as far as they're concerned, all of the grants were properly reported and that there's no problems with the grants. For the city and the school system as a whole, no audit findings were identified. So there's nothing that's pointed out as a major problem that needs to be noted. So all of the opinions are as good as you can get. There's no exceptions made, and there were no findings. The 3 funds I want to point out just for the city citizens to know some more information about and for council is the general fund. The general fund, for people who are not familiar with governmental operations, is the main operating fund of the city. And this year, we had a situation where we were beginning to realize the gains of the Pinnacle. Sales tax was higher than we had projected. We also had additional business tax. So we were able to end the year with a higher change in fund balance than we had originally budgeted. We started the year with a fund balance of around $13,950,000, and during the year we were able to increase it by $1,019,646. So the ending balance is $14,991,497. And one thing that we try to look at each year is the city has a fund balance policy where we try to maintain 3 months or goals for. And because we have some, when you look at the model that we do in the budget each year, there's some years coming up where we'll have to dip in for some bigger projects or some debt payments. But right now we have 5.56 months of expenditures in reserve. So basically, if revenues didn't come in, the city could operate for 5.56 months and still support themselves. Last year, the number was 5.6. So we've stayed flat. So we're comparable to the prior year, and that's a good number. The second fund I wanted to point out was the General Purpose School Fund. They have had some changes. They were able to get additional county property tax revenue, and they also are benefiting from the Pinnacle and had additional sales tax. So the General Purpose School Fund started with a fund balance of approximately $9,050,000. Their increase for the year was $2,446,826, which is a really good increase. So their total ending fund balance is $11,716,308. And I think they're trying to save some of that money. They're restricting it for some capital projects coming up, and they've got plans for that. So if you look at their months of reserves, they have 3.93 months of spending in reserves at the end of FY16. But while those numbers were impressive and I was proud of those, I was more proud of the health insurance fund. The health insurance fund has been the elephant of the funds for the past few years with the rise in health care costs. And we have had years, we started having some positive years last year, but in the prior years we had losses. And the net position for the fund has ran at a loss for about 4 or 5 years, and it's been a point of concern. The good news is this year, the staff is, Mary Lee, I've got to give her credit, Mary Lee Williams, Director of Administration, and Bill, we've done some plan changes, and they did some premium changes. And this year, we started with a negative fund balance of approximately $600,000, and we actually had a positive change in FY16 of $860,787. So we ended the year positive for the first time in quite some time with a fund balance of $265,404. And now the good news is that fund's headed in the right direction, whereas the positive direction, and that's been the one fund that's concerned me. And so those problems have been, I think, adequately addressed, and I think that fund will continue to be well maintained. And so I'm resting easier at night now. So those were the main things I wanted to point out. I know Matt can go into some more detail next month. Are there any particular questions that anyone has?
No, just congratulations, especially to Mary Lee and to Mr. Sora on the success of our health care fund, because that has been concerning with health care being what it is across the nation. And with opening the new clinic, congratulations to you and to Terry Napier and all of his staff. And, you know, again, our staff is outperforming, and we appreciate it.
Any further questions or comments? Okay, thank you very much, Tara. We have no public hearings on tonight's agenda, so let's move on to the appearance of citizens. This section provides an opportunity for the public to address City Council on any matter that is not on the printed agenda for formal consideration. Comments are limited to matters of city business only. A response will not likely be made at this time, since most cases neither the council nor the city manager will be prepared to effectively respond to the concern. The city manager will look into the matter and report back to city council, or as appropriate, have staff meet with you in an effort to satisfy your concerns. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Groups are encouraged to select a spokesperson to represent them. I have been provided a list of individuals desiring to address council this evening. On the list, we have Reverend Barbara Dole. Reverend Dole, did you want to wait until this ordinance actually comes up, or do you want to speak right now? Okay. Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to address council on any matter that is not on the printed agenda? Okay. Okay, having seen none, we'll move on to the appointments. We have 2 appointments to be made this evening to fill an unexpired term, 2 unexpired terms on the Community Development Action Committee. The candidates include Sid Oakley, Catherine Stigers, and Marjorie Tester. Tonight's appointments are a bit different because of unexpected terms of office that have different ending dates. To address this concern, our city manager has suggested a method of determining the candidate that is to be appointed to the longest term of office. Ms. Kaiser, could you please brief us on that method?
Certainly, Mayor. I'll preface this by saying that you are not required to follow this procedure at all. You're free to follow whatever procedure you'd like. But in thinking about how to choose 2 out of 3 candidates and decide which of the 2 candidates fills the longer term on the CDAC, I came up with the process that's in front of you. Basically, on your first ballot, you would have the opportunity to vote for 2 of the 3 nominees. And of course, you do have the opportunity to abstain at any point. And as you all recall, you have to have at least 3 affirmative votes in order to appoint someone to the board. Assuming that at least one of the nominees receives 3 votes, the nominee with the most votes on the first ballot would get the longer term on the CDAC. If 2 nominees receive the same number of votes on the first ballot, then the mayor would determine who fills the longer position by lot. If only one nominee gets more than 3 votes on the first ballot, then that nominee gets appointed to the longer term, and you would cast a second ballot to determine who gets the shorter term. And so you would simply cross out the nominee who's already been appointed and vote yay, nay, or abstain for one of the 2 remaining. And assuming that at least one of those nominees receives 3 affirmative votes, then you have selected your members of the board. They would be appointed to the shorter term. If no one receives at least 3 votes on the first ballot, then you can decide that you want to try to recast the ballots, or you can decide that you are not going to be able to appoint somebody tonight, and the position would just remain open, and you would be able to take applications for next month. So are there any questions about how this would work?
As a matter of order, do we need to accept that procedure to do this?
I would kind of like, yes, I'd like for someone to move
I'll make a motion that we accept the procedure as described.
I'll second it.
Okay, Tara, let's take a vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rennie,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fierwalter,
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Powers.
Yes.
Okay, so let's pick, we want to pick 2 on our first one, correct?
But we want to speak to the people.
Yes, yes.
So-
Would anybody like to speak on behalf of the candidates?
Yeah, so this one's very difficult because we have 3 awesome candidates, and so I could speak for any and all of them, and but I'm going to vote for 2. Sid Oakley is a great member of the community. I've worked with him at church, worked with him on the train station board, and I think most everybody up here is familiar with Sid, and he's retired and he's getting more involved in the community different ways. Katie is at the YWCA. She's on the Believe in Bristol board, serves as secretary. She's great. Marjorie Tester works at First Tennessee Bank and is involved very much in the community, past president of Believe in Bristol, and helps a whole lot of nonprofits with banking, and does Recovery Road for Women as well. So she would be great. So any of them would be great. And I read with interest about our procedure for the comprehensive plan. So maybe somebody can be involved in that in addition. But other people, sorry.
I think you took most of the points, but I think
Sorry.
we have 3 outstanding candidates, and I'm grateful to have all 3 of them apply, and would encourage whichever one doesn't get appointed to find another opportunity there.
Agreed, all very good candidates. Okay.
Okay. All right, Councilwoman Running votes for Sid Oakley and Marjorie Tester. Mayor Keene votes for Sid Oakley and Marjorie Tester. Councilwoman Powers votes for Sid Oakley and Marjorie Tester. Vice Mayor Young votes for Sid Oakley and Marjorie Tester. And Councilwoman Fierwalter votes for Sid Oakley and Marjorie Tester. So now we have to determine the terms.
So we declare,
We'll put them in a cup, and you'll draw out the name you draw out will serve the longest term.
got it.
Make sure he eats you.
Put it in a cup of water, that'd be good.
Well, this is exciting.
This is important attorney business. We thank you.
Okay, this is for the full term, is that correct?
For the longer term.
For the longer term, Marjorie Tester.
There you go. Congratulations to Marjorie Tester.
Wow, let's do that again. Okay, moving on to our ordinances and resolutions. The next item on the agenda is the first reading of Ordinance 17-1, amending Chapter 14 of the Code of Ordinances for adoption of the Standard Amusement Device Code. Mr. Sora, would you please summarize?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. This item was brought to you first at our work session last month. And as you may recall, in August of last year, a tragic accident involving a Ferris wheel in Greene County resulted in serious injury to 3 children. A post-accident inspection of the Ferris wheel determined that the cause of the accident was a mechanical failure. In an effort to ensure a safe environment for our carnival attendees, we want to make sure that we have the statutory ability to take such action to ensure that, and a review of our Code of Ordinances indicated a lacking of that statutory ability. Currently, the state does provide limited oversight to amusement rides and devices. There's an amusement device unit that's housed in the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, and they do require an annual third-party inspection. They do require liability insurance, but they don't have a mechanism for providing third-party inspection once the carnival moves to another location and sets up. There's no one there to fill in that gap. So what staff has recommended is that we amend Chapter 14 of our Code of Ordinances to include or adopt the Southern Building Congress International's Standard Amusement Device Code. Now, this code does a number of things, but specifically for us, it allows us the ability to require a third-party inspection of the carnival ride prior to our building official issuing a permit. It also allows the building official to declare any portion, any ride as a part of that carnival as unsafe and ensure that it remains out of operation. We bring this to you as a recommendation. We have had one request for a carnival, I think in late spring, early summer. We did have conversation with the owners of this carnival. They're based out of Florida, and they said this is pretty standard stuff for them to do, and they expect to have to provide this, and it is a measure that's required in Florida, according to them, also according to officials that we're aware of in Virginia. This is required across the state of Virginia. It's just a gap that we have within our state, but I think it's a gap that we can close with our local ordinance.
Do we have any questions for staff on this matter? Is there a motion to take action on this item?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All right. Would any member of council like to discuss Ordinance 17-1 further?
I would like to make a couple of comments. I've gone back and forth on this one. A couple of different things have concerned me, and as I look at it, I'm trying to balance the needs of public safety with adding a regulation that will affect some business. And one of those hard spots here is I understand the business owners who operate these, even the smaller inflatable units, there's not a good way to cut that part out of part of the amusement code, and I'm concerned about some of those unintended consequences with what it might mean to them. I don't think it's expansive what would be required, but right now my concern is more about what it would mean to those small business owners that provide those services.
Could you give an example?
So, for instance, folks who set up, whether it's at an event in the area, let's say we have a community day and they set up some things down at the park.
Like a jump thing, like
yeah.
a local church or a local entity like that.
Whether it's at either private or down at one of our parks. And I think one of those opportunities, I would feel more comfortable, because you can't carve out some of those easily from this amusement code. I'd rather vote no in this situation because I feel like that business opportunity is just weighing as a heavier priority to me than the balance of where the public safety part is there. I recognize that the state handles some of those things, but it's not to the level of what we've addressed.
If I could address those comments, and I'll let me qualify this by saying this is based on my understanding, and I'm sure there are exceptions to that. But it's my understanding that the inflatables, the major concern you have with those is that they're properly tethered, and we've all seen instances where an improperly tethered inflatable type device like that blows away and children are injured inside. It's my understanding that the tethering of those devices is provided by the device provider, and that they're responsible for the safe tethering. They also stay on site, as I understand this. They stay on site to protect their investment, but also to continue to ensure that it's properly tethered. It's not our intent to seek that individual out. It's not our intent to charge for a permit for that type of ride. For that type of a device, but our building inspector would still issue a no-cost permit and go and visit the site and ensure that it is properly tethered and have a conversation with the owner of the device and so forth. But it's certainly not our intent to create any undue hardship here. But it is our intent to ensure that these devices are properly installed and then properly maintained during operation too.
And I do see on the public safety side, certainly some of those, in my mind, some of those larger devices, and I realize you can get injured seriously in a smaller device. And I also know, as we know from the insurance arena, if you're not doing what you're supposed to, that liability doesn't kick in, and so that's an important part that they already have to bear. So I appreciate those comments.
And I truly appreciate your position. I guess reflect on the other side of it is that an ordinance like this, I think, further protects the city and shows that we've done our due diligence and have done everything to ensure the public safety and to do no harm through these types of events. And the liability, for the most part, initially would fall on the provider, but sometimes liabilities are not that cut and dry, and I just think it's important that the city do everything that they can, and I can appreciate that perspective. But when you've got a carnival, or when you've got any of these things where there could be public injury, I think it's important to hold those providing the service accountable. So, I can see both sides. I understand what you're saying, but I think to err on the side of greater caution for public safety is the thing to do.
Further discussion?
I'll just add that I think we heard from a relative of one of the children who was injured, and that was showing appreciation for us moving forward with this. I think that's significant to protect our children. And also, I think it's on Jack's issue, it's nice to have heard from somebody in the industry who says this is pretty much what's to be expected, and that Tennessee just hasn't followed through and done that yet, so that he didn't find it that unusual. So I feel that this is great, that we're moving ahead to protect ourselves, but particularly protect children. And
well, if I could just add one other thing, is that, I don't think that we should fall into an over-regulating environment, but I think when public safety is involved, I think that is the environment that we are most protective. And so, I'm not for over-regulating or putting any more on everybody than is absolutely necessary. So,
I'll be the first person to stand up and shout down any kind of over-regulation, additional fees, any kind of hardship on doing business in the city of Bristol, Tennessee. But obviously, this is one that we can't pass by at this stage of the game with what happened to our neighbors in Greene County, and keeping up with the rest of the state and the nation. We would be stupid not to pass this.
Remiss.
Yes, I was trying to find a nice word, but
Remiss.
yeah, remiss.
Is there anyone from the audience that would like to address council on this matter? Having seen none, I think we're ready for the vote. Tara?
Vice Mayor Young,
No.
Councilwoman Rennie,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fowler-Robin,
yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fowler.
Yes.
We have no ordinance to be considered on second reading this evening, so let's move on to resolutions. First item for consideration this evening is Resolution 1716, authorizing the city to enter into a cost-sharing agreement for US 11W and Pinnacle Parkway improvements. Mr. Sora, can you summarize?
Yes, Mayor, I'll be glad to. If we could move from this slide to the next one that shows a plan overview. This was also a discussion item at our recent work session. Resolution 1716 authorizes us to enter into a cost-sharing agreement with Pinnacle Partners, Tennessee, LLC, for the development of the access road from our future fire station, as well as accommodates the development of commercial property immediately on the southwest corner of this property. And then also it Separate from this agreement, the project does also propose to relocate the access road to National College, which is located on the southeast side of the intersection improvement. This, I think this has always been contemplated as far as the traffic signal that was there. It was designed to be a four-legged intersection that does have a divided portion of the boulevard that goes back. It's approximately 60 to 70 feet, I think, if that's correct. As I indicated, it does for the intersection improvement to operate efficiently. The access to National College needs to be relocated. The Pinnacle Partners Tennessee LLC has indicated that they will fund 100% of the cost of that project. So that allows us to focus on the remaining portion, which is the access drive to the fire station, as well as the access drive to the commercial property on the west side of the intersection. It is estimated that the balance of that cost will be $286,000 and change. The proposal of the cost share agreement will provide that the city will provide 1/3 of that, or approximately $95,600. Of that project, with Pinnacle Partners LLC providing the remaining 2/3 of that development. Funding is available, though we anticipate will be available through the 2016 series general obligation bond, which we're using for funding of the fire station.
Does any member of council have questions for staff? Is there a motion to take action?
Motion.
Second.
Would any member of council like to comment or discuss further on Resolution 1716?
It's exciting. The wheels they're still turning out there, and that's a good thing for all of us. So we appreciate city staff, entering into this partnership to make it all happen.
It's great to have somebody help us pay for it, right?
Always.
Any further comments?
Appreciate the engineering that goes into this sort of thing. It looks like it could be a difficult situation, but the solution that they've came up with is really good, and that's a benefit for everybody.
I will point out that Mr. Beavers and I met with the president of the National College yesterday, and we've had I think very positive dialogue. He has not agreed at this point to the relocation. He is very much aware of the offer that's on the table, and we left him with plenty of plans, renderings, and so forth, so that he can be as informed as you all are about the proposed plans there, and we hope that'll be resolved shortly.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, during your update, if you could also give us any updates on the intersection further down with Island Road. Is it, that's really bad. The state is going to work on if we have any updates or whatever.
I understand what you're saying. And I'll probably yield the floor to Mr. Beavers, who's worked much more closely with that.
Because I know a lot of people are concerned about that.
Not now. Do you want that update now, or just later under manager's comments?
Now, since Tim's up.
Okay.
That sounds good. Is that okay?
That's fine.
You shouldn't have stood up.
I know, I should have stayed seated there, but currently TDOT is looking at that intersection. We made some slight improvements out there by putting in what size left turn lane we could to get onto Island Road, and it's marked appropriately for the only movements allowed through the intersection legally are a left turn onto Island Road when you're going westbound on 11W, and also coming off Island Road, you can turn right onto 11W or left onto 11W. You can't go straight through to Stevens Trail, so if people would obey the signage and what legally they could do, it would be very helpful out there. But the state is looking at a safety grant, and they're in the design process, and we're also talking with them about some potential options for different road configurations out there. Hopefully that will become to resolution here this year. So.
Are we hopeful for better lighting?
Well, the BTS has put out temporary lights out there. They put them up before Black Friday, and they have purchased LED lighting to go out there, and they're just waiting on for delivery of the poles. So,
Great.
As soon as they get those in, you'll see LED lights similar to what's down Pinnacle Parkway.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Would any member of the audience like to address council on this matter? Having seen none, Chair, we're ready for the vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rennie,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fowler,
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fowler.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 1717, authorizing the use of eminent domain for the acquisition of real property for road and sidewalk improvements along East Cedar Street. Mr. Sora, would you please summarize?
Yes, Mayor, I'd be glad to. This was another item that was discussed during our recent work session. As you're aware, the East Cedar Street project is a major road reconstruction that's been on our schedule for some time and is slated to commence later this fiscal year. In recent months, staff has worked diligently to secure the necessary right-of-way and easements, construction easements along the limits of the project. We originally needed to acquire 78 easements. I think at our work session we reported a positive response on 60 of those. I'm happy to respond now that we have a positive response on 70 of those, and hopefully before any legal action is necessary, we can reach agreements prior to formalizing that. But to say this, timing does begin to be more significant. We want to be able to bid the project very soon and maximize the extent of our construction season as we have it in front of us. We can't proceed with project bidding until all of the necessary easements and right-of-ways have been obtained. I would remind City Council a little bit of the project. It does have two 12-foot wide travel lanes. It does have 5-foot sidewalks 5 feet in width on both sides. There are traffic intersection improvements at 5th and East Cedar, at Virginia and East Cedar. There is a straightening of the curve at the King College area, and a general improvement of a travel lane that's rather dated given the growth on the east end of Bristol. So with that, I'd like for Mr. Beavers to come to the podium and walk through some of the specifics of the remaining properties to be obtained.
Thank you, Mr. Sora. As Bill mentioned, we have 78 tracts of land that needed easements or right-of-way along the corridor. It's about a 1.2-mile length. Of those 78, you can see the rendering up there. We have 80 of those that we've been able to acquire or just pending paperwork on. So we were able, of the 11 that's on your memo, we have successfully signed 3 of those today, this evening. So those 3 parcels have gone into the green column, although the drawing doesn't show that. Of the 8 parcels left, 4 of those are title issues, and we think we may have one of those title issues cleaned up with some documentation we received late today. So might be down to 3 of those. And the other 4 belong to Virginia Avenue Baptist Church, Brian, if you'll, or Virginia Avenue Baptist. Virginia Avenue United Methodist Church. It's the corner of East Cedar Street and Virginia Avenue, and they have 4 parcels of land, 4 tracts of land. You can see those up there. You can see the church and the parsonage on the right-hand side, and you can see 2 vacant tracts of land. One's got a parking lot, and one's just vacant on the left-hand side of the drawing. Now, the red parcel that you see, the little triangle, that is the right-of-way that we need to acquire off them. That's a fee simple purchase. It's 148 square feet, and it's for a sidewalk to allow us to put in a sidewalk and the traffic pole for the signal. The 148 square foot, just to give you a reference how much 148 square foot, that's less than the size of a parking space, a typical 9 by 18 foot parking space. So that is the fee simple purchase we need to make from the church. Also in blue, light blue, you will see some temporary construction easements that we need to get along the church that will go away once the project is completed. And that just allows us to blend in their property with the project, the back of the sidewalks. You can see, they may be hard to see on this drawing, but you can see the back of the sidewalk, the black lines, the curb and gutter. Virginia Avenue, East Cedar intersection, what is going on there right now, everybody drives through it, there's a lack of left turn lanes, except if you're going eastbound on East Cedar Street. So this project will add left turn lanes on the other 3 legs, and thus it will widen the road from where it's 22 foot wide right now to 36 feet in width to accommodate those turn lanes. In doing so, and the biggest concern of the church is the loss of the parking spaces that are in the public right-of-way currently. There's some along East Cedar Street and some along Virginia Avenue on the corner. And they utilize those very much when they do their food pantry and for church service. So it is a concern of theirs, but they are in the existing public right-of-way, and we need to utilize that right-of-way now to put in the turn lanes and the sidewalks. And like I said, the other 4 parcels, they are just title issues that need to be cleaned up, if possible, by the property owners. So, any questions?
While you're on this particular graphic, can you describe any of the pedestrian accesses or crossings or anything like that that's currently planned?
Yes, the new intersection, the reconfiguration of the East Cedar Virginia Avenue intersection, it will have pedestrian signals. So there'll be the push button style that you see, the newer ones, ADA compatible, and it also will have the crosswalks. Obviously adding sidewalks on East Cedar Street where there are none currently. So it will improve safety very much so. Church had asked about a mid-block crosswalk or up where you can see their driveway and their walkway up to the church. And being on a state route, not sure TDOT would approve that, and it's not typically wise to have those on major roads because of safety, pedestrian safety, because they aren't signal, you won't get a red light in mid-block for traffic to stop. So it's typically discouraged to have mid-block crosswalks on major roads. So.
Does any member member of council have questions to Mr. Beavers or Mr. Soar or any other staff member? Is there a motion to take action?
Move to approve.
Second.
Is there any member of council who would like to discuss further Resolution 1717?
I think I would like to discuss a little bit, but I'd defer my comments until after we've heard from public comment.
Okay. Anyone else?
I would like to give hats off to Danielle for all the detailed work that has gone into this, contacting all the different.
I can't take credit for all of
Okay,
that.
all right. So
I've only done
Tim,
a little bit of it,
thank
but
you.
Tim's done much.
And a lot of it was just not being able to find the property owners to get their permission. Is that correct?
There are several problems like that.
And the process has been ongoing now for 6 months. 6 months trying to get all this done, and most of them that haven't been completed is just because we can't track down the owners of the property.
With the state and everything that we've had to do, how long has this process been going on?
It's been going on for months, several months.
No, I'm talking about like 10
the
years ago,
beginning?
15 years ago.
8 to 10
Oh,
years?
yeah,
Tim would.
probably 8 or 10.
11.
Anyway.
We have 11 in the back. Do we hear 12?
Do we hear 12?
Feels like 12.
So, some of this is related to our aggregating, though, of money from the MPO.
Right.
And we had to have a certain amount of that, and we only receive X amount per year. So in the aggregate, some of it was delayed for that. When the time was appropriate, that we could commence design and acquisition of right-of-way and so forth, timing it so that adequate money, our share of the MPO funds to advance this project were in place before. So there is that delay that's in there too.
Any further comments or questions or discussion by council members?
I agree with Jack. I'd like to reserve my privilege to comment
Okay.
after public comment.
Good deal. Would any member of the audience like to address council on this matter? And I believe Reverend Barbara Dole was listed to speak for that.
Good evening. I am Reverend Barbara Doyle. I'm the pastor of Virginia Avenue United Methodist Church. My scripture this evening is from Micah 6:8. No, I'm not going to preach. I'm just giving you a scripture. He has shown you, persons, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with God. It has been said, and I've heard several times since we began this conversation, that you can't fight City Hall. Well, we're not here tonight to fight. We're here actually to say to City Hall that we have acquiesced. However, you have done a grave injustice, if I must use apocalyptic language, to Virginia Avenue United Methodist Church. The property that you're going to acquire is the property that we use on East Cedar Street for our handicap parking for our fellowship hall at Virginia Avenue. It is also the handicap parking that we use for our food pantry. Our food pantry is very productive. We serve 200 plus people a month. This includes the elderly, those that are on walkers, those that are on canes, and in the summer there are single parents with their children because they have to bring their children to the food pantry with them. And so it can be very dangerous walking across 421 to get to our church. And without the handicap parking, there will be even more danger. Mr. Beavers has said that there will be a crossing session there. However, people who will be turning in that turn lane sometimes do not pay attention to the light, or the possibilities could be very grave with people turning there now that there will be a turning lane. And so we, as I said, we are not here to argue, we're not here to fight, but we are very disappointed that you all would choose to take our church. I know that it's the city property, eminent domain. However, we have used this property for our food pantry, and we've used it for our parking for our fellowship hall, and we feel like we have been done a grave injustice from our elected officials. Thank you.
Would anyone else from the audience like to address council on this matter?
Yes, my name's Greg Tiller. I own the other property that joins Virginia Avenue and East Cedar. I am here more or less under mercy because my renters right now, I cannot keep renters. With the CVS went in, Food City, Fast and Go went in, my renters cannot get in and out of that intersection. And they can't park in the church parking lot, you know, and now they're going to bring over and going to have 4 foot between the sidewalk and my property for them to park at. They haven't had small cars over here in this country yet to park in that side area, and I just can't keep renters there now with CVS. I mean, I've seen accidents there. I mean that intersection is dangerous. People pulling out CVS, pulling out Food City Gas and Go. I have seen several bumps there over the years. And I don't know, this is not the right thing that needs to go on right now because of the situation of the other businesses there. It's just too dangerous right now. They need to be more, I don't know, more roads, I mean, more lanes or something. I mean, it's just too compacted in that one area. And the renters has to go out. They got one path on Virginia Avenue to come out. When they do this, it cuts that one out. So they have to come out on East Cedar where the exit is for CVS. And all of it is right there at the intersection. And you know, the way the intersection piles up, it backs up several vehicles, and my renter just can't get out. And it's going to be even worse when the sidewalk goes in. Unless I could sell it to the church.
Where exactly are your properties?
On Virginia Avenue in East Cedar, 1132 Virginia Avenue. I don't see it exact, I don't think.
Is it right across on the corner? The white roof.
It's beside the parking lot. My properties is right beside the parking lot.
To the left of the road.
Okay, yeah, over here. Okay, that's it right there.
Right.
There's two properties there. Trying to step over and show you. I'm tall enough. There's this house here in front, and then there's an apartment back here. And, you know, it's leaving me in a complicated situation about entry and in and off the road. I'm just at the mercy of y'all right now I don't know, I just don't know what, but, you know, I don't agree with it because, well, you can see I'm just going to have like 6 foot on the big house there, between the walkway and the front. There's no way, there's no yard in front, and when they put the walkway in there, I don't know. I just don't agree with it, and especially the way things are right now, where they got things laid out. I don't know, but thank you for your time. And
Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else in the audience that'd like to address council on this matter? Okay, I think we had a couple of more comments and discussion. Jack?
Let me ask, were any others out this evening supporting or not supporting, particularly here related to this issue? I know we've got a few extra guests tonight, but okay. A few of you there? I see I see a handful of folks in the back here and supporting Reverend Dole. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. All right. Thank you.
I just think, you know, it's a very difficult situation. It's been one that's been contemplated for over 11 years. I personally know that Virginia Avenue United Methodist Church has been represented at some of our listening sessions in May over the past 3 years when we've met at Fairmount Elementary. And when we get in situations like this, it goes back to the public safety issue. And I know that you have a safety issue for your congregants, understandably, and for those that are participating at your food pantry. I also know that this is a great opportunity, and one that I'm sure you'll embrace, that as this part of the community grows, so grow you. And it's not something that we've taken lightly by any means, but when it comes down to public safety and the planning that's gone into this and realizing that this is an intersection of growth, you know, it's something that is necessary for the overall public safety. As far as the food pantry goes, thank you. You're to be commended. And hopefully, I know that there's been some conversation as to alternative solutions. And, you know, we thank you very much for all that you've done. But, you know, you've got to look at the comprehensive of this and realizing that there are monies that have been set aside for years, and that if we don't appropriate those monies at this point in time when it's so needed, we may miss the opportunity to really further affirm the safety of this intersection. So I appreciate your being here tonight very much.
Anytime we have to work through the challenges of eminent domain, it's something that concerns us. And I know as we've talked in work session about some of these things, and we've had to have this conversation before regarding other property. One of those things that we've challenged our staff to work through is at the reasonable level to work with folks to be able to resolve those differences without having to invoke any of this eminent domain practice. And this is, especially given the long history and the great contributions to our community. You know, a lot of folks have come through those doors and been served both in the heart and in the hand. And I think it's an incredible opportunity. You have represented the community well there. I would like to see this move forward. I do think that there's going to be some of these challenges. Having a wider intersection are going to help with getting in and out, having that extra lane so it doesn't back up as much and some of those things. But one of those opportunities that we continue to challenge staff is work those things out as much as possible. It sounds like some title technicalities which have probably gone unresolved for, in some cases, decades. Probably will have to use that to help clear up enough for us to make their property match up with what we need to do at the road. But I do appreciate your concerns, and it's something that we don't want to have to go through these scenarios, and we're grateful when they do work out. But thank you for your service. Thank you for coming out and mentioning your concerns. And we continue to challenge our staff to be as accommodating as we can within the parameters of what we need to serve.
Any further comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say that sometimes to appreciate y'all being here, and that sometimes we have unintended consequences that we'd rather not have, but when we're trying to look at the greater good, which I think this road, and particularly with sidewalks, et cetera, this is going to be very exciting for this part of town. It's going to be real exciting for the couple of years while they're putting it in. But anyway, but I think it's really important, and I hope that folks in that area will find that it is a plus. I hope you all will. I know when the YWCA in their older location had to move because of Anderson Street Bridge, they were very unhappy. It was felt to be very detrimental to them. It was not our choice. It was what had to happen with the land that was needed by TDOT to put in that bridge. And I think now, however many years later, Y, as well as everybody else in the community, can't imagine the YWCA being anywhere else, and they're ready to expand again. So I hope that y'all will also find with this challenge that there will be some good things to come out of it, and that it challenges everyone to work together and to come up with creative alternatives, et cetera. So I regret that it's hurting and that there isn't an easy solution, but I do believe this is the right project for Bristol, and that we've waited a long time.
I don't want to sound like a broken record, but you do contribute a lot to our community, and you help a lot of folks that are in need, and we thank you for that. Very much appreciate that. We do have things at play with TDOT, as mentioned, and others for funding for this. And we talked about public safety. This is one area that we have a problem in. There's also two other areas in this project that are affected as well. There's the S-turn in particular by King University around the soccer field has had a lot of accidents in it. I think we're going to be working on the red light area as well to try to smooth that out a little bit, get some better sight lines for that. So this is I'm going to take that figure 11 years in the making, and so again, I don't think there's anybody sitting up here that want to do anything like this, but unfortunately, sometimes it has to be done.
I have a quick question. Reverend Doyle, in the conversations back and forth with the city, have y'all made any specific request of assistance or accommodation to this beyond the fact that the lanes will be put into place in the parking lots? And so to restate that is that the city will be repaving the alleyway to the back of the church.
Park there, perhaps, the handicap can park there and perhaps walk down to the fellowship hall. Although that will be a steep incline, but perhaps they can level it down.
Help to grade that down some.
And we had suggested also that there's property on the back of the church on Carolina Avenue that's for sale. And I had suggested to Mr. Beavers that the city purchase it and turn it into a parking space for the church and a park for the city or something like that. So there are proposals, alternate proposals made.
Well, that's great to know. And I appreciate your sharing that with us this evening.
Did say he was going to talk about purchasing that property.
Did you say you'd give it your best shot? Well, thank you for sharing with us. That's good for us to know.
Unless we have further comments, I think it's time for our vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rennie,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fire
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Powers.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 1718 designating the official zoning map for the city of Bristol, Tennessee as of January 1st, 2017. Mr. Sora, will you summarize?
Yes, Mayor, this is largely a housekeeping matter. Annually, and I'm sure as you recall, annually we approve a resolution that designates the official zoning map of the city of Bristol as of January the 1st of that year. And it reflects all the changes in zoning that was compiled during the previous calendar year. We had one change in zoning, and if we could go to the next slide. Let's go to the next one. Okay. This was along East Mary Street, and these properties, as you may recall, were zoned M1 and M2. They were rezoned to R1B. And those are the only changes that were made to our zoning map since you took similar action this month last year. The action you do tonight, it does not alternate any of the zoning. It simply adopts the official rezoning map or zoning map of the city. The Bristol Regional Planning Commission considered this matter at their January 23rd meeting, and they recommend approval also.
Okay. Sorry. Does any member of council have questions for staff? Having seen none, do we have a motion to take action?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other comments or discussions about Resolution 1718? Having seen none, would any member of the audience like to address council on this matter? Okay, Tara, I think we're ready for the vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rennie,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fire
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Powers.
Yes.
Next, we have Resolution 1719 authorizing the city to enter into a consulting services agreement for the development of a comprehensive plan. Mr. Sora, will you summarize?
Yes, Mayor. As council may recall, one of our goals for this fiscal year was to commence a multi-year process, the development of a comprehensive plan. This is something that I don't think the city's really done in totality in the 25 years that I've been here. We've had a number of elements put in play. We've had a land use plan, we've had a transportation plan, we have a parks and recreation plan, a number of these, and the land use plan has been updated on several occasions. But a comprehensive plan is a bit of a different animal. It has it's more comprehensive. It does have chapters related to those items that I just talked about, but also economic development, housing, education, open space management, energy, arts and culture, natural resources, community sources. There are a number of elements to a plan such as this. Staff requested proposals from qualified firms to provide this type of consulting services. They're recommending Design Workshop, Inc. of Asheville, North Carolina, as their top-ranked firm. We believe that the process will take approximately 3 years, and this is consistent with our budgetary allocation for this fiscal year. They do propose to provide it in its totality for a lump sum of $105,000. If you do approve the agreement and authorize us to proceed, then within 30 days of the execution of the agreement, we'll have a kickoff meeting, very similar to the kickoff meeting we had on our education study earlier this year. This will require a high degree of public participation to determine the goals, objectives, strategies, policies that will go into implementing this plan. Quite frankly, it's long overdue.
Good deal. Does any member of council have questions for staff? Seeing none, do we have a motion to take action?
Motion.
Second.
Any member of council like to discuss further Resolution 1719?
I think it is very exciting, and it is long overdue. And I know when several of us were first seated on council, it was something that we were just adamant about, and it's nice seeing that, it's coming to fruition. We can't get where we need to go if we don't know where we're going, so it's good to have a plan to help direct us in that direction as a city. So I'm excited. Good job. Great. Good for the staff, and again, great job.
Very exciting. Not everything that we have to do is pleasant or easy, but this is one that's just
This is a
pure
good one.
excitement and good.
It's one of those tools that lets us plan our work and then work our plans. So it helps us with both the annual objectives and also those longer-term things with where we want to be.
Absolutely.
This is something that I certainly support and think it's long overdue, and I've been jealous of our sister city. The state of Virginia requires them to have it, so they have regularly, I think theirs is every 5 years or so, that they go through a process. So it'll be great that we can do the same.
Is there any member of the audience that would like to address council on this matter? Having seen none, Tara, let's take the vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Farrell,
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Fowler.
Yes.
This brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Sora, would you please read the items?
Yes, Mayor. Item A, minutes of the January 3rd, 2017 City Council meeting. Item B, minutes of the January 24th, 2017 City Council work session. Item C, Resolution 1720, approving a grant agreement with TDOT for the utilization of FDA Section 5303 funds for the Bristol MPO. Item D, Resolution 1721, awarding a bid for the purchase of one Segway. Item E, Resolution 1722, awarding a contract for engineering services for water filtration plant motor control center. Item F, Resolution 1723, awarding bids for purchase of uniforms. Item G, Resolution 1724, authorizing the purchase of in-car video systems.
Would any member of council like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? Okay, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Terry, let's take the vote.
Vice Mayor Young,
Yes.
Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilwoman Farrell,
Yes.
Mayor King,
Yes.
Councilwoman Powers.
Yes.
Next, we have our Board of Education liaison report. I think Dr. Lilly is not with us tonight, but Mr. Jim Butcher is here to fill in.
Good evening. Dr. Lilly is in Nashville, so he asked me if I would take on this duty, and I'm very glad to do so. I'm always good to watch you guys work. It's not easy, is it, to be a public servant, but you have to do what you have to do, so I applaud you. Wow, wrong glasses. We are just coming off a winter break. We had a long weekend, and one of the things that we do now, of course, yesterday our teachers were back doing in-service, or personalized learning communities, as we call them. But we now have optional race camp days, we call them. And that stands for read ahead, advanced study skills, catch up on missing work or failing grades, and extended learning by preparing for upcoming assignments. And we're very happy to see these are very well attended, furnish transportation and everything, and kids are really enjoying this. And sometimes it's just, beneficial they don't have any place particularly to go or anything to do, and parents do like this option, so we're happy to provide that. Speaking of winter, it's been a good winter for us. Not to jinx anything, we've had the inclement weather we've had. Our city crews have worked hard to clear the roads and enable our students to get to school so they can learn, while many other districts cannot. So we appreciate the efforts of the city on that respect. Our MGT facilities follow-up study, we had a great time doing that. Felt like it was very productive and look forward to moving ahead. Representatives are getting feedback from our principals actually Wednesday about facilities which will form the baseline for the educational suitability portion of the study. Gary is much involved in the Tennessee legislative session, which is in full swing, and we certainly appreciate the Tri-Cities Joint Legislative Agenda presented to our regional legislators by the city councils and boards of mayors and aldermen. Your advocacy on these issues is very, very much helpful to a school system. I do have a couple of celebrations I'd like to share with you at the state level. Fairmount Elementary School was recently recognized by TBSP, that's the Tennessee Behavior Support Project, as a model school for successfully developing and implementing a school-wide behavior intervention framework. Congratulations to the principal, who's Kyle Evans, program assistant Jane Leo, and the Fairmount teachers and students. In essence, that's, you may not have been familiar with an in-school suspension type thing. I see some head shaking, my goodness. But Fairmount has found a way to make that really much more educational and much meeting with counselors and behavior interventions. And it's really been a very, very positive thing. So, learning's not stopping, and that's very, very important. And also, we want to congratulate our Coach Marshall and our men's wrestling team for finishing 4th in the state in the team wrestling. And this is the second year in a row we've finished in the top 5. And, that's really phenomenal. And also, we are the smallest school in the state to have that accomplishment. So congratulations to them. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Would you like to share a little bit about our recent session together with the
Oh, yeah.
kind of the joint work session that we had?
Sure. What we did, the educators and the city council, we talked about, visioning and talked about a plan to move forward and how we could do it. One of the things, of course, has to do with facilities. And, we needed, to update our data to make sure that things we're doing are still, relevant to today. So that's exactly what we're doing. And, we expect to find the need for a new middle school. However, we may find other needs as a result of this. So I think it's very, very forward-thinking and such a progressive thing. We sure appreciate the opportunity to work with you guys.
A lot of exciting things happen within our school system. We appreciate you very much, Mr. Butcher, and look forward to seeing how this comes out with the study that we're doing right now. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
City Manager's report.
Okay, Mayor, thank you. At your desk this evening, you find a copy of a letter from the signatories on the letter would be the mayors from the Tri-Cities as well as Washington County and Sullivan County, Tennessee. This letter was drafted by Patrick Wilson, Executive Director of Tri-Cities Airport, and it will be forwarded to our entire legislative delegation. We are requesting financial assistance on the aerospace park, and as I've said before, this is one of the projects that you're going to hear a lot about in the coming months and hopefully the coming years. And it's, I think there are a few things that we're doing a number of things that are very significant. This is one of them. Mm-hmm. And I think as the various pieces come together, I think this will be a real opportunity for economic growth in our community, in the aviation sector, and I think we're primed for that. This letter, again, we'll be requesting signatures from all 5 of the mayors in support of a request for funding assistance to advance this project. I'd also like to commend our community relations staff in a project that they have. It's really going to be underway for the balance of the spring. They're currently surveying both internal and external customers and relationships and how we deal internally with each other, and then how we deal with our public. Once this information is known, we also have scheduled these types of community or customer relation type education programs that will roll out. And then there'll be a subsequent survey later in the year as we get toward the summer months that will gauge. We get a benchmark, we get some training, and then we'll go back and see the benefit of that training. I'd also like to compliment and recognize Mr. Jacob Jenkins of our Public Works Department. He was our 2016 Bristol First Employee of the Year, and he was recognized at a luncheon in honor of all of our Bristol First recipients on January 27th. A couple of dates to log in. 21st is going to be a big date for us. We have a joint meeting with Bristol, Virginia City Council at noon. This will be at the Birthplace of Country Music in the theater. This will be a presentation by BCM, very similar to what you heard from the chamber, and their return on your investment and the financial contributions that you make to that organization historically. Then that evening we'll have our quarterly meeting of our boards and commissions. I think Patrick Wilson will be here. I know this board has heard about our aerospace park, but our other boards and commissions that are involved with economic development have not had that opportunity. So we wanted to have that presentation. Then also it's the time of the year that we bring Clay Walker in for his annual report for 2016 and what he sees as key elements of his plan for 2017. Our work session will be on February the 28th at 5:30. Thank you.
City Council comments.
Can I make a request? Would you like to provide any updates, or staff like to provide any updates on the recent opening of the wellness? And
I'm going to defer. If I could ask Ms. Williams to go to the microphone, though, so your comments are recorded and televised.
No pressure.
No pressure.
thank you for accommodating that request.
Well, I would be glad to speak to the clinic opening. I think it's been very positively accepted by our employees. Their first week utilization, the appointments that were available, 86% of those were booked. The second week, 96% of the appointments available were booked, and I don't have the numbers yet from last week. So the appointments are being used. We'll continue to look at those numbers, hopefully increase hours within maybe the first quarter or the beginning of the second quarter of the opening of the clinic. We're also making sure that we keep our finger on the pulse of if there are appointments that folks that are not able to get into the clinic, we're taking that into consideration as well. We're getting positive response from interaction with the nurse practitioner and the doctors, so everything's been very positive. Appreciate all the support in our opening. It was a big month for us, and we really appreciate all your support. Any questions?
I think citizens of Bristol would like to have the same service. Can you work on that next?
In my spare time.
That's what the Facebook responses were. Can anybody in Bristol do this?
We have several job openings.
There you go.
We'll be glad to bring more into the family and serve more folks.
There you go.
But to that point, Margaret, I think a lot of people forget about our public health departments. While it's not the same type of service, there are still services out there related to health through our county and our state. So,
And nonprofits.
and
as well,
nonprofits. I think it's good to remind folks that those services are still there.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Mary Lee. I appreciate you doing that.
Okay. Who would like to start us off?
Oh, I'll go. The school board's always an exciting place to be, and especially with the hope of funding that we now have from our Sullivan County Commissioners. It wasn't an easy lift for them, but we appreciate them making that on the behalf of everyone in the county. It's real funny. I think sometimes people forget that we, as residents of Bristol, Tennessee, are also residents of Sullivan County, and so we appreciate them making that lift. Great news about the wrestling team as well as our other academic accolades. I had the opportunity last week, something near and dear to Margaret's heart as well as my own, to visit the Nature Center and to see how it is unfolding. And it is going to be something. The exhibits that are going to be out there have been well thought through. They are being done by an original native resident out of Richmond, and it's nice to keep it all in the family. And so I would encourage everyone to just keep the Nature Center in your thoughts and contribute often. Also, I had a very interesting phone call today with one of our local manufacturers, and I was just so excited to hear they're shipping internationally as well as up and down the East Coast, and business is just going great. And he couldn't be any more complimentary and any happier to be here. You know, we've talked about a lot of things that have unfolded, the new health facility, what's going on at the schools, how hard our Public Works Department has worked with the whole issue of eminent domain. We've heard about the Nature Center and Parks and Rec. Every community relations as well. I'm always afraid I'm going to leave one out. Every one of our departments, I'm so excited, planning with this, our trails, has a plan. A plan is so important, and just accolades go to our administration again. That we as a city have a plan. That there's been great vision put into this. It has been vision that's been collected throughout the community. There's been a lot of community input in a lot of different ways. And I think that we're reaping those rewards. And I just would like to encourage all of our citizens to be as involved as they possibly can be, to get in touch with any one of the five of us, as well as any of our staff on a regular basis, and not to leave finance out. How great to get a clean report. So congratulations. It's an exciting time. Continues to be an exciting time.
Who else?
I can go next. I wanted to, it seems like forever ago, but at the beginning of January, right after our city council meeting, we did a legislative meeting, and just I think in December, said it'd be great to have some kind of communication to help folks understand that cities are really the economic engines that drive economic development, and sometimes that's not recognized, or maybe it's thought of, but it's not really internalized. So we challenged our communications department to put something together, and they pretty much blew things out of the water. Our regional folks who were there were very, very impressed with the work. I think that for the most part, people did get the picture that cities are economic engines, and everyone was very complimentary of the part that we played, that our staff played in putting that together. So we think things like that are pretty easy. Oh, y'all can do it, and don't always understand how much time in front of editing and researching to get the right footage, et cetera. So what's easy for us to say is a whole nother ball game for y'all to do. So really appreciate that. Also just mentioned that Birthplace of Country Music just opened a new exhibit, Hometown Stars, I think. And it's particularly exciting because our museum staff they took the borrowed exhibit that wasn't in exhibit form, so they put it together with an exhibit, and they also utilize a lot of their volunteers, helped out, so people really own it and feel really good about it. So encourage people to get by and take a look at that in the next few weeks. And I'll just also say kudos on the school facilities. The facilitation for that evening was great, just listening to what all they include, and also who some of their other clients are, and that they revisit them regularly to help them relook at stuff. I know it was a process to go through to choose who to do that process with us, and y'all did a great job. I think everybody already is pretty happy. We hope we're going to be just as excited and happy at the end, and I think we certainly will be. I'll make a plug, Jim Butcher, for Reading Buddies. Anytime people can become a reading buddy and read with a child for about 30 minutes a week and make a difference in their lives. And the school system really works hard to help coordinate that program in the different schools, and including 2 schools in Bristol, Virginia that have embraced that program. And I think we're seeing the results. I'm on the library board, and we're doing some strategic planning, and there's some focus groups coming up on February 8th, 9th, and 18th at 9, 11, and 1. So invite folks to join those focus groups and give some input. And we do a lot with adult education that helps the Drive to 55 stuff happens at our library. So hope folks will help out with giving their thoughts and opinions and ideas. Also, this Friday, we have a rail coalition, and we'll be meeting for the first time in a while. And in addition to that, a little different project is working on a Bristol Train Day. We had the first one last year for National Train Day, and then we found out that they don't do National Train Day anymore. So we're having a Bristol Train Day. Anyway, the first one went great, but we're starting to plan some different activities at the train station for people to be able to enjoy. And I think that was it on my list.
I just have 3 quick things. It is an exciting time for Bristol. At the top of my list is always economic development. That's firing on all cylinders, going full steam ahead. The aviation park is very exciting at the airport, utilizing our foreign trade zone, bringing in new types of business. And thank you for mentioning about customer service. Always toot that horn. It's very important that we treat the people that live here and the people that have businesses here with the utmost customer service. And I can empathize with the good Reverend in that you can't fight City Hall, and I feel that pain a lot. But it is something that we work toward and strive. Communications department, it seems to be falling in their lap with a lot of other time-consuming things. So thank you so much for that. Number 2 on my list is always education. It's really exciting time to be looking at how we want to shape our education system going forward. Not too long ago, it was always a 4-year college degree. Now we see that not everyone needs a 4-year college degree, but some kind of training post-high school is necessary to make it in today's world. And the leaps and bounds that we're making with raising the average education level with our citizens is tremendous. We're still focusing on the Drive to 55, which is 55% of our population has more than a high school education by the year 2025. And that isn't only focused on students, but it's also focused on adults too, because we can't hit that number unless we reach out and touch the adults and get them a higher education level. The last thing is I just want to take a second to talk about the budget, and it's always been important to us that we don't raise taxes unnecessarily. When we initially did not raise taxes, even though it was expected that we would raise taxes every so many years, it really caused everything to stop, and we had to take a look at everything, or not we, the city manager had to take a look at everything. And one of the things that jumps out is that 10 years ago, health care benefits was in the low single digits as far as the percent of our budget. But over time, it's jumped up to, double digits, pushing toward 20% of our total operating expense. And it was It's something that not a lot of government has done, I think, as far as the nation, Congress, the state, city or government employees have Cadillac insurances in the past. And when you're an elected official, you kind of like to keep that going in. But we as a city stepped up and said, the private industry can't continue to support the Cadillac health insurances, and so we had to look at ways to be smart about it, to look at different alternatives, try to maintain the level of service that we get but reduce costs. And that is one of the things that I'm most proud about with the staff, is that we've been able to do that. Our financial health is very good. We haven't had to raise taxes in the past several years, and very glad about that, and appreciate everybody. Thank you.
Well, I'd like to compliment some of the comments that Councilwoman Rennings made, because a couple of those opportunities, when you think about the groundwork that has been laid for this aviation opportunity, a couple of years ago, Northeast State Community College started offering some aviation programs to be able to build one of those small, I guess you'd say, environments that we have for aviation-related business. And that's exactly the kind of education that's needed, and it's more technically oriented, whether it's the aviation mechanics or some of those related opportunities to aviation, to be able to step into some of these opportunities that require that side of the runway access. And those opportunities also, as those buildings come into that future development, they're going to have some additional services, whether it's the uniform companies or the parts folks, to be able to make some of those things. And it makes a whole lot of sense when there's an opportunity to serve, to have your facility just off side of the airport, maybe a few miles away in one of our convenient and accessible industrial parks. It all comes together, though, and while that's not in the city limits, it is in our immediate vicinity. And those jobs, while sure we do want them in Bristol, Tennessee, we want them in Sullivan County, if they end up just across one of those imaginary lines, it still helps our community a lot. And so I'll finish with a story. I met a fella who's about 50 years old right now. He's had some health problems and had to go on disability completely, but he was put in touch with someone with the Reconnects program, which is part of what Michelle was talking about, getting folks back in who are adults and getting them trained. And he is pursuing a broadcasting certificate or training so that he can be a productive member of society. He is excited to complete that so he can step into an opportunity where he will not have to rely on just that welfare to help him out while he's had some of those health problems. So that was one of those encouraging insights that he shared, is this is an opportunity, and he knows what it's going to mean for him as he's able to finish up and step out of some of the challenges that he's had for the last few years and step into this new opportunity and different career than what he's had. So it's education is powerful. Thank you.
Terry, I'm going to put you on the spot. How many businesses do we currently have within the city limits? 3,666 business licenses within the city. That is unbelievable. I never thought it would have been that high. Very proud of it. Yeah. Well, anyway, that goes. That's a testament, and that's the reason we have all these jobs that are available right now. We have a lot of folks, or a lot of businesses, I should say, that are needing help. They've got jobs open, a lot of good jobs, multiple business sectors, 12 or 15 different business sectors. Please help us get the word out to the community that we have these job openings. Construction is up. So I'm really excited about things going forward. I'll also mention very quickly that we've been discussing periodically at our work sessions about the city moving forward with visioning and looking to the future and things that we need to do and things that we can do. Beth Reinhardt is going to be at our next work session and give us her aspect of what the chamber may think about those things. And so we're excited about that, moving forward with that. We do have 2 meetings with Bristol, Virginia City Council coming up for BCM and also, I think, Believe in Bristol.
Believe in Bristol, and that date's yet to be determined. It'll be sometime in early March.
Okay. So we're excited to see our the folks from the Bristol, Virginia City Council as well. Would like to also mention Amy Shuttle from the Chamber of Commerce is here tonight, along with former Mayor Joel Staten and Malin Luttrell from Bristol Baseball. Appreciate everybody coming tonight. We had several things on our agenda, and we very much appreciate your participating and looking at city business. We're adjourned.